Okay, so we've tried recording this a few times. We're gonna try again. This is my friend. She just doesn't want her face shown on here because it's small town and everything. And there are possible trigger warnings of suicide and sexual assaults in the following questions. All right, so what is your classification?
PTSD, depression, and a learning disability of dyslexia.
Who is the person we're gonna talk about today?
This is about me.
At what age were your classifications made?
I was around 8 years old with the depression and dyslexia, 13 for PTSD.
How old are you now?
30.
Were there any early childhood traits that indicated the need for classification?
Difficulty with reading and math. I also was getting bullied. The PTSD was diagnosed when I was raped at 13 and the victim shamed for being a whore. Doctors believe I may have had PTSD from a younger age because I was actually a victim of physical and emotional abuse as a child from my birth father.
Does your family history indicate anyone with the same classification as yourself?
My family has a history of depression and anxiety.
How was it brought to your attention that you possibly needed to be classified?
With the dyslexia, I finally had a 4th grade teacher try to get me help. With the depression, PTSD, after years of hiding my feelings and pain from bullying, I tried to kill myself and a few times, and at age 15, my dad found me and stayed with me all night. After that, I knew I really needed help to talk about it.
Do you feel that the matter was handled sensitively by those involved?
No, not at all. I was called names from students, belittled by teachers for not applying myself and being lazy, when really I was undiagnosed for a long time. In response to the rape, I found out that many adults had discussed and had happened, and some wouldn't let me hang out with their children anymore. When I switched schools, one of the teachers told some of the others what had happened.
What types of programs or classes were helpful while in school?
Unfortunately, I got diagnosed pretty late and with the dyslexia, but I was able to get reading help in school, and the PTSD and depression, talked to guidance counselors and therapists helped me a lot.
Are you satisfied with the available programs in school?
This is a hard question to answer. I feel like in my situation was to happen now, I would be happy with the programs and help available. Unfortunately, the stigma withstands, but it nowhere close to what was when I was younger, and I have hope that it's going to continue to get better. Sadly, when I was younger, it was easier to pretend of those problems didn't exist.
Are there any services that were not available due to lack of money?
As far as services and resources, there have been quite a few that I would have continued with if my financial situation was different. Unfortunately, therapy and things like that are very expensive. A lot of insurance companies don't always cover it, and at least in a long-term capacity. And those who do usually require you to be severe, that you can't work or have a life. So if you try to live a normal life, you don't necessarily get the help through therapy. But if you let everything go to hell and mentally can't handle anything, there's more services available for you.
How did your classification affect you and your family?
My stepdad and mother refused to believe that I had dyslexia. That was part of the issue with getting the help I needed. And when it comes to depression and PTSD, they wanted to blame everyone. and didn't, and it needed to get, sorry,
It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. It's okay.
and it needed to be hidden. There was such a shame evolved around the idea of their perfect little daughter having some type of mental issues, especially one that considered self-caused. They believed that I should just get over it and start acting normal and toughen up.
Sorry, I know this is hard for you, so I appreciate it. Do you feel that you have endured positive changes since being classified?
Yes, I finally got the help with reading, and I got help with depression and PTSD, so I no longer feel the need to blame or hurt myself. I also no longer feel the need to hide my issues and try to help others now. But for the longest time with school, I struggled. It was very difficult for me to explain to my teachers why I couldn't comprehend something, or I had brain fog, or something would set me off and I would just shut down. When people think of PTSD, they think of war movies and people freaking out. That's not always the case. In fact, I became very shy, had constant nightmares, and I just felt disgusting and in pain all the time. The only time I would get upset or lose my temper was when people were not understanding that I couldn't control what was going on. This usually was, sorry,
No, it's okay.
this
It's
usually
good. You're
made
doing
me
great.
go numb. I still have extreme brain fog and deal with a lot of symptoms and more.
If you could, what would you change about the educational assistance that's being provided?
Seeing the way so many students are still getting bullied and dealing with depression and anxiety, it would be nice to have a way for the teachers and other students to look out for each other. And if possible, intervene earlier. I also feel as though if a student tells you they're really struggling with something or not understanding, then there should be a way to help them without parental permission if that student keeps begging for help.
Do you feel you may outgrow the current behaviors?
So I know I will never outgrow these behaviors, but with correct therapy and support system, I could definitely live a manageable and healthy life. Understanding I still have a lot of PTSD moments and
It's okay, it's
depressive
okay.
episodes, especially now during this pandemic. Luckily, I am aware enough that my family needs me and they are my anchor. I do feel if students is diagnosed early enough with some of these issues and get the right therapy and help, they would be in a much better situation than myself. And in regarding to the dyslexia, I feel though they could overcome it.
What is the most important piece of advice that you would pass on to other parents and family members of a newly or soon to be Are you okay first?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What is the most important piece of advice that you would pass on to other parents and family members of a newly or soon to be classified child?
If a child tells you they're having difficulty with reading, writing, please listen to them. Also, the same advice as goes with depression and PTSD, anxiety, or anything like that. If your child is trying to tell you that something doesn't feel right inside them, or they're very sad and emotional, basically if they're trying to communicate with you in any way that something isn't right, please listen to them and take them seriously. So many young people are committing suicide or turning to drugs. I feel like a lot of it could be helped with good support system. Don't dismiss them based on their age.
Have you been socially affected by your classification?
I would like to say that I was not affected in regards to dyslexia. Some people don't think it's real or just assume you're dumb. When it comes to PTSD and depression, unfortunately there is still such a stigma around depression and PTSD, people assume you're a danger to yourself and them. They don't really understand that it means I found myself being judged differently when people hear those labels. I feel when I try to justify my story or explain how it is for me personally, some people are very understanding while others distance themselves or think this could never happen to me or my family. I like to think of myself as a happy, outgoing, bubbly person who tries to help everyone when possible. So to be judged so harshly, to think that people would think that I'm a danger to them or their children is so beyond heartbreaking. It brings back a vicious cycle of feelings like no matter how healthy you get, you'll never be a person again.
I don't have any more questions. Is there anything you wanted to add to this?
I think I'm good for today.
Thank you.